Woman found dead on a Florida highway 2016. Michelle Wilson, 40, was found dead at 3:30 a.m. on the side of a Miami highway, in 2016. She was found on her back, arms at her sides, with a hole in her head, back I think. That was not due to a gunshot wound. She was missing one sandal. I knew her many years ago, and we hung out in the same group but we did not stay in touch. She was a very sweet and beautiful girl when I knew her. Her nickname was Sunny. She was a mother of 2. I can't find anything other than the head wound caused her death, but they don't know how it happened. I don't think her injuries suggest she was hit by a car. To me it sounds like someone stopped, tossed her out of the car, and left her there. Or judging from the photo walked up to the highway. I don't think the other sandal was found, but I'm not sure. I'd be interested to know if anyone can find anything more about this case. The mystery surrounding the dead woman found on the side of a Kendall highway deepened Thursday when a spokesman for the Florida Highway Patrol said the Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner couldn't determine the cause of death. A spokesman in the medical examiner's office said a wound on the woman's head could have caused her death, but the office hasn't yet determined what caused it. The blunt trauma on her head was enough to kill, said Darren Caprara, director of operations at the medical examiner's office. But was she hit by a car, or fell? There's just no way to tell. I mean, if she was hit by a car she'd have bruises. And she didn't fall out of her car, and get a hole in her head, and then the car vanished. It's pretty gutsy to dump a body on the side of a highway, even at 3:30 a.m. in a place as populated as Miami. What happened to the man who helped capture the Night Stalker, and why did he never collect the reward? On August 26 of that year, Alejandro made an anonymous phone call to the LAPD and told them he knew who the killer was. Police had received thousands of tips like this over several months, but this turned out to be more credible than most. Alejandro agreed to meet with detectives later that afternoon and informed them that a man he knew as Richard was the Night Stalker. He explained that he and Richard shared a carpool while working day jobs, but he had become suspicious of him during the Night Stalker attacks when Richard started making him stop near Echo Park, where he appeared to be handing off goods for cash. While at first he was confident Richard was just a thief meeting their fence to sell ill-gotten goods, he began to become more suspicious as he noted each visit came just after a Night Stalker murder. The arrest. Police believed that a suspect they identified as 25-year-old Richard Ramirez was the same Richard that Alejandro knew. One of Ramirez's fingerprints had turned up at a Night Stalker crime scene, and police decided to meet with Alejandro again, this time with a photo book containing photos of Ramirez. Alejandro identified him as the man who he knew as Richard. The very next day Richard Ramirez was identified as the chief suspect in the Night Stalker murders and was soon captured by a group of angry citizens who caught him while attempting to steal a car. Disappearance. Richard Ramirez was found guilty on 13 counts of murder and sentenced to death. Alejandro was due the reward of over $6,000 for providing key information that led to the Night Stalker's capture. Police were unable to locate Alejandro after their last meeting with him. In 1985 he was 26 years old and had been living rough, though police knew he had a wife and 2 children but didn't know their identities and have been unable to locate them either. In the years since, a variety of theories have been put forward, from Ramirez possibly killing Alejandro before his capture to Alejandro leaving town and not wanting to be involved in the media circus around the ensuing trial. Others have suggested Alejandro avoided being identified due to possible criminal charges he may have had pending. Police don't believe Alejandro was a criminal and are unsure what caused him to disappear after Ramirez's capture. Conclusion. Richard Ramirez later died in prison of liver failure in 2013 while still awaiting execution. Alejandro or his family has never been located. Police are still eager to pay the reward, which in the 1980s was around $6,000 and remains unclaimed. If Alejandro has since died, then his family would be still eligible for the reward. She was dismembered, put into bags, and disposed of in a garbage bin. She has been unidentified since 1992. Who is Yonkers Jane Doe? Today, I'm here to tell you about the case of Yonkers Jane Doe. Yonkers Jane Doe was a 28 to 42-year-old white female who was found dismembered, placed in black plastic bags in a dumper in Yonkers, New York on the 27th of July of 1992. It was estimated she had been deceased for a day. Yonkers Jane Doe was one of 5 victims of Robert Schulman, a 42-year-old poster worker, who took the lives of prostitutes while high. Schulman stated that he took Yonkers Jane Doe back to his house and used drugs with her. He claims that after this drug binge, he blacked out, and when he woke up, she was dead on his floor. Schulman was sentenced to death, but this sentence was later commuted to life without parole. He died in prison in 2006. Yonkers Jane Doe is missing to someone. A child. She had 2 cesarean section scars, one vertical and one transverse, indicating that she had given birth at least once in her life. She had dark brown hair, hazel eyes, stood at approximately 5 feet 7 inches, or 170 centimeters, and weighed between 115 pounds or 149 pounds, 52 kilograms to 67 kilograms. Yonkers Jane Doe did have some identifying marks. A tattoo of a sideways butterfly sat on the back of her right shoulder. She also had a scar on the mid-portion of her left thigh. The toes on her left foot had been painted with bright red nail polish. 2012 murder of university student Hervoye jury back inside his bedroom in his family's apartment.
If a child, a spouse, a life partner, or a parent depends on you and your income, you need life insurance.
After the initial 48 hours, Tomislav's stay in custody was prolonged in order to thoroughly search the Lake Jaran, as the police suspected that he had went to Jaran, which is located in Zagreb, approximately 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles, from the Turibak family's apartment in the district of Spansko. It was suspected that he went to Jaran on rollerblades after murdering his brother, and that he threw the bloody clothing and knife somewhere along the way. Tomislav's alleged kidnapping. In 2004, when Tomislav was 13 years old, he was allegedly a victim of a bizarre kidnapping. He told his parents that, while he was returning home from school, a group of men kidnapped him and took him to a garage where 20 or so men tried to convince him to leave his parents and join their cult. After he turned them down, they gave him a car ride back to the place where they had kidnapped him. They spun him in place until he fell, which led his parents to believe that he had been given drugs. Doctors concluded that he was not under influence of narcotics, but that he had lived through a shock. They took the case to police, while psychiatrists concluded that he is telling the truth, as he remembered too many details for the story to have been made up. Despite this, the kidnapping was never solved. Tomislav's release. Soon after, Tomislav was released from custody for lack of evidence. Firstly, the analysis of the biological sample taken from the victim's body was not successful as the amount of material was not enough for a DNA analysis. Another DNA analysis was contrary to police's suspicions. They had hoped that the blood sample taken from Tomislav's rollerblades belonged to Hervoye, but it belonged to Tomislav. He told investigators that he got the scratches on his thighs from falling on rollerblades. Although it is not known how old his injuries were, an expert has concluded that if he had fallen while on rollerblades, he would have had to have injuries on his hands as well, which was not the case. Police were suspicious of the fact that he could have made the trip from Spansko to Jaran and back in only 45 minutes on rollerblades. His movement was recorded by security cameras at a few points during his trip, more on this later. To this day, investigators haven't found the knife or the slippers, no larger than a size 42, which left a bloody footprint in the room. The police couldn't determine whether it was a pair of slippers that belonged to the Turibak family or not. Whatever the case, the murderer probably took the slippers with him, as no slippers in the apartment showed any traces of blood. While it was initially believed that the murderer had to have been left-handed, like Tomislav, an expert has since determined that he also could have been right-handed. The funeral for Hervoye was held on July 12, and was attended by approximately 1,000 people who honored him with white roses. Everyone wore black except for Tomislav, who wore all white. He was held up by 2 people, as he couldn't walk on his own from grief.
Text-to-Voice is a free online text-to-speech converter. Convert your words into a high-quality voice that does not sound like a robot.
Just because your dick enters me doesn't mean I involuntarily start moaning.